The topics of this module are installing and licensing Kofax Output Manager. Please click Next to begin. Let's walk through the process of installing and licensing Kofax Output Manager. Installation and licensing of Kofax Control Suite and its component products has never been easier. Using Control Suite's Install Assistant to perform the installation and Configuration Assistant to configure and license the software make it a snap. The implementation technician can use either the Install Assistant Wizard, which is strongly recommended, or the manual method that can be utilized by technicians with previous experience installing AutoStore, Equitrack, and Output Manager. The Install Assistant Wizard steps the technician through the installation process by presenting a series of questions, asking what the technician would like to install. The questions were designed to be more layman-like in its approach. The manual method allows the technician to select from components of the software he or she would like to install. Although we recommend using the Wizard method for all installations, the manual method can be used by those who have previous experience installing AutoStore, Equitrack, and Output Manager. Despite the installation method, the process of installing Control Suite software has been made far easier for all those responsible for the deployment of Control Suite and its underlying component products. Once the Install Assistant has been used to install the software, the Control Suite Configuration Assistant launches to perform post-installation configuration. Configuration Assistant is installed by Install Assistant during the installation process, and after initial use of the Configuration Assistant, it's available to launch and use to make configuration changes. It's also within Configuration Assistant the software is licensed. Once initial configuration of the implementation is complete, the solution is ready for workflow-centric configuration and deployment to end users. During post-installation configuration, using the Configuration Assistant, and as part of the licensing process, you need to jump out of Configuration Assistant and access the new Kofax Entitlement Portal. It's within this new portal licenses are accessed and applied to the software. This is also the place end customers need to access to claim their license entitlements, which is done prior to installation and configuration. This is also the place to access and download the Control Suite software, i.e. Install Assistant, which is used to install Control Suite and all its component products. In the next slide, we will walk through the process of installing and configuring the software via video demonstrations we've prepared for you. The process involves the end customer first claiming their license entitlements and downloading the software. Then, installation is performed using the Kofax Install Assistant. And finally, configuring the software using the Kofax Configuration Assistant. The video demonstrations begin with the installation process. It is assumed the end customer has already claimed the required entitlements and downloaded the software. The process then continues with configuration and licensing. It was mentioned in the Introduction to Control Suite module, only end customers can claim their entitlements. Partners cannot do this on their behalf. Having said that, it is strongly recommended the partner technician work closely with the end customer to ensure the entitlements were indeed claimed correctly and the software is available. It is assumed the partner technician will perform installation and configuration on the end customer's behalf. Please click Next to begin viewing the videos. To view the demonstration videos, use the slider to select a video and click Play. When the video is finished, you will be returned to this slide automatically. You can also click Play All Videos to view them all without returning to this slide. You can click the red X in the upper right corner at any time to return to this slide. When you are finished viewing all videos, please click Next to continue. We're going to install Kofax Output Manager onto a single server using the offline installer, the full package that contains all the installer executables. We're going to apply 5 Output Manager Enterprise user licenses, as well as one each of the Output Manager Basic Transform and Basic Page Modification licenses. And the Enterprise license brings with it Capture powered by Kofax AutoStore, so that will be installed. In fact, most of the features included with the Enterprise license actually are part of the Foundations license. Watermarking and user stamping is also going to be available through the use of the Basic Transform and Basic Page Modification license that we apply. We're also going to install Kofax Business Connect, Kofax's mobile capture and print solution, and we're also going to install Device Registration Service so that we may deploy unified clients. So let's begin. I'm inside the offline installer folder, and the offline installer contains all of the install executables. And we're going to locate installassistant.exe, right click, and run as administrator. And the Control Suite Install Assistant launches. I'm going to go ahead and click Get Started. And the install begins. The very first question, do you want to use the Install Assistant wizard or manually configure the server? It is highly recommended the technician use the Install Assistant wizard. Now, throughout the installation process, look for the eye icons for more information via tooltips. For example, mousing over the eye next to manually configure tells us advanced users who are familiar with the desired components may skip the wizard and manually configure. This indeed may be the preferred installation method for those already familiar with the product. If the technician elects to use the manually configure method, they will be taken directly to the advanced screen where they can select the options and features that they desire. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to indeed use the Install Assistant, and we're going to go ahead and click Next. What software do you want to install on the server? We're going to install Output Manager. Click Next. Are you installing Output Manager in a production environment, or do you want to build a demo or POC or proof of concept server? We are going to build a production environment server, but if we wanted to quickly stand up a demo server and we selected that radio button and clicked Next, it's going to take us directly to the summary screen. And if I click the advanced link, you can see that Install Assistant has pre-selected the features that a proof of concept or a demo room server would need. We're going to go back, and again, we're going to build a production environment Output Manager server and click Next. Will this be the primary Output Manager accounting and configuration server? In our case, it will be, but if this was a subsequent Output Manager server, we could select No at this stage. But this is a single product, single server configuration, so yes, this will be our primary. Click Next. Do you want to install additional output management capability? And we have 3 choices here. Input and output services, we definitely want to include that. This is responsible for receiving documents into Output Manager, while its output service is responsible for sending documents from Output Manager to destinations. Enhanced Capture powered by AutoStore, we're going to select that. With the Foundations license for Output Manager, you get a feature set designed for that license, and an Enterprise license gives you a couple more options. We're using the Enterprise license. We're going to go ahead and select this to take advantage of that enhanced capture. And then Device Control Service. We're also going to select that. This is required to support Ethernet card readers. And if we mouse over the tooltip, it states that. So with our features selected, we're going to go ahead and click Next. Will this server be used to support mobile devices? Yes, I want to support mobile devices from this server. Answering yes to this question installs Kofax Business Connect. And we're going to click Next. Which of the following Control Suite shared services or tools would you like to install on the server? We need to make sure that license server is checked. We need a licensed server so that we can license the product, and it is checked by default, and security framework. That's checked by default as well. And if we look at the tooltip, the security framework is required to broker communication between components within Control Suite. So this is part of the new Control Suite package. And of course, we need to select it. And then for device registration, we're going to check that box as well. This is indeed required to register and configure MFP devices through the use of device registration service. And we'll go ahead and click Next. And that brings us to the summary screen. And if I click the advanced link, we can go ahead and we could add additional features and services if we so desired. Output Manager, all of those features are selected. We're good there. Business Connect, we're installing that. We are going to check the box for document transformation. Deploys extended document transformation capabilities. That's going to provide the document transformation service. And with all of our features selected, I'm going to click Save. And I'm going to click Next. Here, we can go ahead and change the location of the installation folder, but we'll leave it at the default. And notice we also have a checkbox, Force Download of Latest Installers. If we check this, Install Assistant will query the server and it will download any installer executables that are updated. It'll download them and install them in real time as part of the install process. We're going to go ahead and leave that unchecked. We're going to click Next. And Install Assistant is checking for prerequisites. We can see that we have green check marks next to operating system, hardware, and ports, but we have a red X next to software, which means that we have some items in here to address. So under operating system, my operating system is a supported OS, so that's why we have a green check mark. Under hardware, we can see we have a few different items in here, minimum and preferred, and then what Install Assistant found. We have green check marks next to CPU cores and memory. This is because my server meets or exceeds the preferred number. If what Install Assistant found on my server did not meet or exceed, we would get a warning. And for ports, all of the entries are green. And what Install Assistant checks for is port availability, but it does not open the ports for you. That's an important distinction. Now, let's go to software. We can see that we have 3 software prerequisites that have red X's. This means that they're not installed and that we need to go ahead and install them. All the other items in our software prerequisites list are green, so we're good there. So for these 3, we need to go ahead and install them. And to the right of the red X's, these are download links. These links take us directly to where we can download the software prerequisite. So for the first prerequisite, I'm going to go ahead and click the download link. It launches a browser. And I'm going to scroll down and click download. Now, this prerequisite is calling for the 32-bit version of C++ 2012. That's why we're presented with a list. I'm going to go ahead and select the correct one. Click Next to download. And we'll just save this to our desktop. I'm going to close the browser and we can see that the prerequisite has been downloaded. Now with Install Assistant still running, I'm going to go ahead and install this prerequisite. And we can see that the install was successful. I'm going to click Close. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the Retry button. And Install Assistant will check for prerequisites once again. And if we go back into software, we can see that we only have 2 prerequisites remaining. The prerequisite that we just installed now has a green check mark somewhere down the list. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording and install the other 2 prerequisites, and then we'll continue. Okay, so I've installed the other 2 prerequisites. Let's click Retry once again. And now we have nothing but green check marks for our software prerequisites. So we are good to proceed. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. Install Assistant just checked for disk space. If it found inadequate disk space, the admin would receive a notification alert and the install would abort. But we have adequate disk space. The install has begun. Again, I'm going to pause the recording and let Install Assistant install the software, and we'll resume once it's complete. Okay, success. Thank you for installing. So the installation was successful, and before I click Finish, notice Open Configuration Assistant, the checkbox is checked. Install Assistant installs Configuration Assistant on the server, and we need to run through it to configure our new installation. So I'm going to leave the checkbox checked. I'm going to click Finish, and Configuration Assistant launches. In the next video, we'll continue with our implementation by using Configuration Assistant to configure the server. Let's continue our Output Manager installation by configuring the server using the Configuration Assistant. Configuration Assistant uses a wizard to step us through configuration, thus simplifying the entire process. It's important to note, if the server is rebooted after installation using the Install Assistant and before running Configuration Assistant, the server may end up in a bad state. Do not reboot the server until running through or finished viewing all. For environments without server internet connectivity, you can use the following alternative process to license the server. You still need a PC with internet connectivity to use this method. Once the licenses are mapped to your license server, mouse over Action and select Download Capability Response. And you're going to save the resulting bin file so that you can then sneakernet or copy it over to the server where it needs to be applied. The file name for the bin file is the server ID. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And back in Configuration Assistant, we're going to go ahead and apply it. Now, I'm working from the same server, of course, but you would again take this bin file, move it to the server where you need to apply it, and then follow this process. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Refresh Licenses. And instead of Update License Online, we're going to select the other radio button. This license server has no access to internet. We're going to go ahead and click the ellipsis button. We're going to navigate to where our bin file is located, select it, and click Open, and then Apply. I'm going to go ahead and close, and as we can see, all the licenses are there. So this is the offline process for licensing a Control Suite server. If you find that you need to migrate your licenses from your current server to a different server, you must first remove them from the current server in the entitlement portal. I'm in the entitlement portal, and I'm going to go ahead and click on License Servers. And I'm going to click on the license server that we need to remove the licenses from. And we can see that they're in a state of license generated, so they are being used. All we need to do is mouse over the Action button, choose Remove Licenses, and then we need to enter the number in the fields, and we're going to remove them all, and we're going to click Save. And as we can see, the status is now waiting for confirmation. That's because we have to go back into Configuration Assistant and refresh the licenses to complete the process. So I'm going to go to Start and launch Configuration Assistant. I'm going to go into Licensing. I'm going to go to Refresh Licenses. We're going to go ahead and click Apply. And I'm going to click Close. And we can see that the licenses are gone. In fact, it says no data. If we go back to the entitlement portal, I'm going to refresh this page. And we can now see that no licenses are currently mapped. So the end customer, with the help of the technician, can remove the licenses from their existing server in order to apply them to a different server. Very convenient, very easy. For environments without server internet connectivity, you can use this method to remove licenses offline. It still requires a PC with internet connectivity to access the entitlement portal to accomplish this. So I'm in Configuration Assistant. We can see that our licenses are still there. And in the entitlement portal, we can see that the status, license generated, everything's in place in terms of the licensing on this server. But the aim is to remove these licenses offline to migrate them to a different server. So the first thing we need to do is hover over Action and remove licenses. And we need to select how many we want to remove. And we're going to remove them all. And we're going to save. And we can see that they were successfully removed. The status is now waiting for confirmation. So what we now need to do is hover over Action again, choose Download Capability Response, and save the bin file named for the server ID. And this is the file that needs to be copied over to the server. I'm working on a single server to accomplish all these steps, but what just occurred with the entitlement portal, this would have occurred on the PC with internet connectivity. So on the server, back in Configuration Assistant, we need to choose Refresh Licenses. Select the radio button for No Access to Internet. Click the ellipsis. Navigate, find your bin file. Click Open and Apply. And I'm now going to close. And we can see that the licenses are no longer there. And in fact, it says no data. What we now need to do is click the Download License Request and go ahead and save another bin file that's named offline license request.bin and save it. And this file would be copied over to the PC with internet connectivity. So back in the entitlement portal, under license servers, we need to choose offline device management. We need to click the Choose File button, choose the offline license request.bin file and choose Open, and then click Upload. And we see a green check mark. And now if we go into license servers and click on the license server we've been working with, we now see that no licenses are currently mapped. So despite the fact that your server may not have internet connectivity, you can still remove licenses using this offline process. Videos, please click Next to continue.